boru boye oyan.
Hey, Abora Boy, this is Alua Fakola Dev IDIN Ifa Temple. This morning, we will have our IJUBA service, and the topic is Ifa transforms generational curses into intergenerational wealth. So I want to begin with prayer. Sure. Olodumare, please support us. Ejobe, he hears people please and set the free. He hears people please and prove the free. He talks people and should have talked to completely ignored. He hears people please, set the free, make me pop. He hears people please and prove the free, name should die. He talks people and should have talked to completely ignored. Name Shana. Shana is the personal convey. Personal don't cannot help him personal. Try frogs on some rainfall. Both frogs on some downpour. It's whether I can read you from trees of whether they trust. Whether the big rats are or that they trust. All what I tell you, talk to you, touch on the program. Sure. Oh, true record. You show gratitude upon gratitude, you all gratitude. You display benevolence upon benevolence, it's the album of all benevolence. Represent your gratitude, yesterday's benevolence, such a person, and now receive today's virtuity. These were the decoration five for the 401 enrollment. I'm going to know your point, the daughter of Fuji. These were also decoration five to a woman. I'm going to know your point, the daughter of Fuji. I'm grateful. I see my institution. I'm grateful. Yesterday's favor. I see today's virtuity. Oh, to the red tape, we are very grateful. Awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe, awa bure, adupe, ana uwa bure, tunebo Olodumare, awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe, awa bure. Adúpẹ́ àná òpópóre tó lébọ̀ orí ẹni. Àwa dúpẹ́, àwa bòrè. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa bòrè. Adúpẹ́ àná òpópóre tó lébọ̀ èrò mọ̀. Àwa dúpẹ́, àwa bòrè. Àwa dúpẹ́ àwa bòrè. Adúpẹ́ àná òpópóre tó lébọ̀ ṣẹ́gun òrìṣà. Olódùmarè and the divinities, we ask for your forgiveness. Please forgive us for anything that we've done wrong, anything that we've done incorrectly, anytime we might have broken our taboos, anything that we have done that has offended you or offended the divinity. Tutu, pounded yam without soup can be very difficult to consume. These were the decorations we fought to a tutu, the child of our venerable. He who is full of bad character, he whose bad attitude has prevented him from entity Basume, now comes to solicit on behalf of the tutu, come to beg on behalf of the tutu. Father, please be patient, overlook this provocation. Those who beg on behalf of the tutu, or will respond by saying, those who beg on behalf of the tutu, those who solicit on behalf of the tutu. How many children does Ifa have that he would cast one out? Those who beg on behalf of Tutu. Ifa, please forgive us. I will call out to you in the name of Ejobe. Ifa says that it is a gradual process. I say that it is a gradual process. Where is the rat of yesterday night? The poor rat of yesterday night is still alive. Let it continue to suffer. Let her continue to experience want. She will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon become Toro Fini, the leader among all rats. We have made Toro Fini the leader now. All rats, come and pay your tribute. All rats. Ifa says that it is a gradual process. I say that it is a gradual process. Where is the poor fish of yesternight? The poor fish of yesternight, it is still alive. Let her continue to suffer. Let her continue to experience want. She will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon become known as Akagba, the leader of all fish. We have made Akagba the leader of all fish. Come and pay your homage. come and pay your tribute to all fish. Ifa says that it is a gradual process. I say that it is a gradual process. Where is the poor bird of yesternight? The poor bird is still alive. Let her continue to suffer. Let her to continue to experience why she will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon become, the leader of all birds. We have made the leader of all birds. Come and pay your homage. Come and pay your tribute. All birds. Ifa says it is a gradual process. I say it is a gradual process. Where is the poor beast of yesternight? The beast of yesternight. It is still alive. Let her continue to experience want. Let her continue to suffer. She will soon become great. She will soon become prominent. She will soon become King Inu, Nini, the leader among all beasts. We have made King Inu the leader among all beasts. Come and pay your tribute, all beasts. Ifa says it is a gradual process. I say that it is a gradual process. Where is the poor man of yesternight? Let him continue to live. Let him continue to suffer. Let him continue to experience want. He will soon become great. He will soon become prominent. He will soon become Okandi, the leader of all humans. We have come and made Okandi the leader of all humans. Come and pay your tribute. Come and pay your homage. All humans, please come. Ifa, please come make us all very prominent. Make us all very great. Ward off all death, ward off all sickness, ward off cases, controversies, ward off fights, litigation, losses, outright fights, witchcraft, negative forces from us at this time. Bring to us all the good things of life. Before we call out to we call on Oshe. Tanya, the feeder tubu, the stock of a community, it's not big enough to be detected. Had it been enough to be detected, I would have taken it home and it's on my heritage. Easy five liberations to Aruela. We're going on spiritual missions to Jebalin. We call up to this payment. On the south side to make a rich. We call on Aruela with respect and a Jebalin. Oshe Aruela is a good old. Oshe Tura. I kick in and baggy sabi. I try shuffle against the tree. Cassie past the room. BCB by my chef. Mother if no one's fish real, they should be wealthy. I kick in and baggy sign. I'm not for us. I see by my share. And I'm not for the no. No, she have joy, she will joy. I kick in and baggy sign. I'm not for the no. I see by my share. And I'm not for the no. No, she have victory, she will victory. I kick in and baggy sign. And the mouth of the no one's I see by my share. And the mouth of the no. If no one takes care of all the good things of life, you should live all good things of life. I kick in and baggy sign. And the mouth of the no one's I see by my share. And the mouth of the no will talk and see. Maybe so surely shall it be. Ashe òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi o, àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi. Ohun tí mo bá màmá wí o, ìwọ mọ̀lẹ̀ ọba. Ifá ọba o, àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi. Àṣẹ. Bímọ dúró, tí mo súre. Bímọ pẹ̀rẹ̀, tí mo súre. Bímọ kúnlẹ̀, tí mo súre. Bímọ jókòó, tí mo súre. Ire tí mo tú orí ti bọ́. Orí ẹni làrúrẹ̀ ẹni ọ̀. Orí ẹni làrúrẹ̀ ẹni. Ojúlọ mi ò fa wá mọ́rí. Orí ẹni làrúrẹ̀ ẹni. Òbọ̀rẹ̀ ṣáàtú. Ifá ọba lọ́run. Àti bàṣáájú. Ifá ọba lọ́run. Ó ṣe àrú ìlà Ifá ti bọ́. All of the Mary and the divinities, please come. Ward off all death from us. Ward off all sickness. Ward off all cases and controversy. Ward off fights, litigation, losses, outright fights, challenges. Ward all these evil things off from us at this time. And bring forth in its place long life, wealth, good spouse, good children, peace of mind, victory. Ifa, please move my ego out of the way so that we can hear a word of Ifa. Help us so that we can hear a good word of Ifa, a good word of all of the mind. We ask that you would move any negativity, any challenges out of the way at this time, and bring us goodness. Emma kami mene ama, Emma kami mene ano, Emma kami mene adelokun, Tamule, Tori Ifa alonimi, Ebora timpanini, Ene banami, Ahun ati Ifa lelejo. Ashe. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for tapping in with us. This is IDIN Ifa Temple, our IJUBA Temple service. Thank you once again. You could be anywhere, but you're with us, and we're thankful. So today, we have a very interesting topic, and that topic is Ifa transforms, Ifa turns ancestral curses into intergenerational wealth. So we want to talk about these things because a lot of times, particularly in the African American community, we find ourselves traumatized by issues not only of the past but of the present. And there's a woman by the name of Dr. Joy DeGruy. She has a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And what she's talking about is these issues that African Americans, due to experiencing the past of slavery and enslavement in America, in the diaspora, had this feeling, not even a feeling, but a process, a diagnosis, a situation where there are reverberations, echoes of that imprint, that negative cycle that was created during slavery by white supremacy that has an effect on African people, not only in America, but I would also say even in the diaspora, with colonialism, with neocolonialism on the continent of Africa. We know that in 1884 to 1885, Henry Morton Stanley and King Leopold II issued this Berlin Conference, where it was a scramble for Africa, where all of these European countries got together, in essence, to take over the continent of Africa. And within this process, we know at least 10 million Africans were murdered as a result of just that occurrence, the colonialism and neocolonialism process begun by Henry Morton Stanley and King Leopold II. These actions, what do they do to us? And my thought is those things create negative cycles. But when we look at this, I want to kind of address the idea of curse from multi-dimensional levels, because I've mentioned colonialism, I've mentioned transatlantic slave trade and enslavement, chattel slavery, all these things. But what is a curse? So a curse is defined in Webster's dictionary as a solemn utterance to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment upon someone or something. When we look at this, a curse can also be an imprecation. It can be a negative invocation. A curse is something also that lasts, and it lasts until someone does something to correct and or atone for the perceived offense. As we look at curses, let us also look at them, as I said before, from the perspective of a negative cycle that continues on and on and on and on until it is corrected and or amended. Do you know anyone who is consistently finding themselves in trouble, finding themselves in conflicts, fights, debates, relationship? They find themselves in debt. They find themselves with consistent health issues. And it might even be you. Have you ever felt that you or someone may be cursed? Cursed in a way that you may find that even those who came before you have experienced the same same challenges, same problems for generations in the past. When I think of a curse and also negative cycles, I want to say the aspect of the Willie Lynch letter. And we may debate the authenticity of the actual letter. We also might debate if it actually happened. But one thing that we cannot debate is the efficacy of its prophecy. So it states that this letter was created by Willie Lynch, and he was going around speaking about how to control your African people who were enslaved. And he says it comes out in 1712, allegedly. And it says, I have a foolproof plan, a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee everyone, if it is installed correctly, it will control your slaves for at least 300 years. So when we look at that, 1712, and it's 2022, it's already at least 300 years after that. Let's take a look at what's happening now. The letter further lays out a method, a plan to divide and conquer enslaved Africans by pitting them against each other based upon arbitrary differences such as age, color, skin tone, height, gender. And when we look at these arbitrary differences, oftentimes the ethos or the epitome of what is right is oftentimes a white supremacist model. So when we look at the lives of young black men, young black women in our communities, I want to say that these lives oftentimes are fragile. Fragile in the sense that I want to just ask you, and you think to yourself, how many young African American men and or women have you seen murdered? And when I say that, either murdered or taking their last breath on the epic screen in real life, what I mean by that, actual footage of death. And in a certain way, many of us have become desensitized to not only death of other people, but particularly death of black people. I ask you, how many of us can say that we've seen a person killed or murdered on the internet, on the screen? And before you begin to think, I want to remind you, let's look at Ermias Ashkodun, Nipsey Hussle, March 31st, 2019, age 33, murdered. Pop Smoke, February 19th, 2020, he was only 20 years old. King Von, November 6th, 2020, age 26. Young Dolph, November 17th, 2021, age 36. Draco the Ruler, December 19th, 2021, age 28. Trouble in Atlanta, June 5th, 2022, he was only 34. Jay the Youngin, July 27th, 2022, he was only 24 years old. PNB Rock, September 12th, 2022, he was only 30. And Takeoff, November 1st, 2022, he was only 28. Not to mention, we've seen George Floyd, we've seen Breonna Taylor, we've seen Mike Brown, we've seen Tamar Rice, Trayvon Martin, and the list sadly goes on and on. And the fact that we can name just those few, and much of their murder, the after effect of their killing, was on the internet. That, in my opinion, is a negative cycle. It is an American curse. When we look at that, I also want to look at mechanisms that are put in place by the government that have instituted what I would call a curse, what I would call the creation of a negative cycle from an outside force. What kind of damage does such things create? Let's look at the men in the house rule. The AFDC, Aid for Families with Dependent Children, established in America in 1934, establishes this rule, the man in the house rule, which basically means or meant at that time a child who was qualified for welfare benefits was denied benefits if that child's mother was living with a man, whether single or married, and this rule eventually was overturned in 1968. Imagine how that's at the tip of the 70s. Under this rule, women who wanted benefits for their children and for themselves, they couldn't get benefits if they were in a relationship with a man. Basically, no man could be inside of the house. Some say this is partly to blame for many of the challenges in terms of marriage and relationships that we see in America, particularly amongst lower income urban families. Imagine the damage that that has created in this country. I say that is a curse supported by the US government. What does IFA say? Let's look at the IFA known as Puerto Rico. IFA says restitution is non-existent in EMEA land, and curses cannot end in Ilua land. This was Ifa's message for Onle Akumara at Iluaori, inhabitants of those who roast their corpse. In this Ifa, this is the story of a Babalao by the name of Puerto Rico, and he was a traveling Babalao. And at a particular moment in time, he came to a town. I believe it was Ilua or Ilua. And when he got there, his wife at the time was pregnant, and he went to work in this town. And as he was working there, he was called to another town to do work. So he left his pregnant wife at this town and went to a far away town to do other work because, as I said before, he was a traveling Babalao. So Puerto Rico, as he was away doing work, of course, his wife gives birth to their child. And when she gives birth to the baby is not well. The baby is very sickly. And the townspeople, the king, everyone did everything that they could to do the best that they could to save this child's life. And they did it to no avail. The baby eventually died. The king stood up and said, well, look, I don't want any problems with Puerto Rico. He's a great and a powerful Babalao. So what we should do, let us preserve the baby's corpse in our smoke room. So they did that. And as soon as they did this work, the baby's remains were basically being preserved inside of their smoke room. When this happened, shortly thereafter, it was time for their annual Yam Festival. So whenever it's the Yam Festival or the Harvest Festival, the whole community goes to their plot of land where they are growing their produce. And they went and they were picking all of their vegetables, all of their yams, and all of those things. And the whole town, in essence, went to participate in this process. So during that time period, when the whole town was away, Puerto Rico arrived at the town in EMEA. And as he got there, of course, he had taken a long, long journey. He was hungry. He decided, you know what, let me go and procure some echo and some bushmeat. So he made his echo, and he went inside of the smoke room and the only thing he could find there was what looked like grass cutter or bushmeat. And he took a leg off of it and he ate that with his echo. No sooner than he had consumed this meat that the townspeople arrived back. And they came, and when they arrived, everyone was so happy to see Torrico. Torrico was like, "Oh, where's my wife? Where's my new baby? I can't wait to see them." And then the king says, "Baba, there's a problem. The baby died. We could not preserve its life." Well, Torrico cried, and then he said, "Well, where is the gravesite? I want to do various rituals for my baby's soul." And they said, "Well, what we did, we preserved the baby inside of the smoke room just for you." And they went and procured the remains, and they noticed that one of the legs was missing. And upon seeing that, Otorrico knew that he had consumed the leg of his own child. And he said, "Is this what you guys do? This is what you do to anyone that dies, anyone who passes away?" And they're like, "No, no, no, we did it just for you." "Oh, you do it just for me." Well, Torrico then said, "Well, from here on out, all of you will be roasting your corpse. Anytime there's a person who passes away, you will roast their corpse." Why? Because you roasted my child's corpse. But here's the deal. If you don't roast the corpse of anyone who passes away in this town, then one, your children will not live. Two, if they do live, then they will not mature into adulthood. They will die before they reach adulthood. And if they do live and then they are able to make it into adulthood, then they will never amount to anything. They will not progress. He made 3 negative imprecations. He put 3 curses on that town. And as a result, that some say to this very day in that town of Eluaimia, they are still roasting the corpse of particularly the Oba. When the Oba dies, they roast his corpse in order to avoid that negative curse. So in that situation, the king had done something that some people would perceive as like, well, maybe it was lawful that they put that curse on him. I can't say that, but I will say that in the mind of some people, they will think that you are deserving of a curse. In the Odu Okaramechi, this is the story of Akuko. Ifa says in Okaramechi, Sakoto Mojalawa, he was the Awo who cast Ifa for Akuko Die or Tangalaja, the big cock. When going on Ifa mission to the land of Owa, he was advised to offer a bow. He complied. Rain had fallen on the Akuko, the cock, today. The tail plume had served its contrariness. All misfortunes of the Awo have turned into opportunities. When we look at this Odu, I think it's so very important for us to remember that even though Akuko was cursed, Akuko eventually was able to come out of it. In this Ifa, this is the story of Akuko. And the rooster, he was a very young and he was also very cocky. And he was a babalao. And what was happening is anytime anyone would cast Ifa, so usually in Nigeria, when Ifa is being cast, when their divination is being made, it's in a room with young awos and more experienced awos. And what will usually happen when the Odu comes, the youngest Awo will speak first. Youngest Awo, this is the order of things. The youngest Awo will put his or her head to the ground, and then they will recite what they know about the Odu that has come out. And that happens if you know the Odu. So the youngest begins, and then it goes until we get to the oldest Awo in the room, the more experienced Awo in the room. When this occurs, there's a certain protocol that happens. So if you are the youngest Awo, you don't say everything. Because if you say everything you know about that Odu, what might happen is you will leave something. You will make it so that the other Babalaos who are present, other Yanifas who are present, they won't have anything to say. And also, if you are the youngest, you should not be the one in that setting to be telling the heaviest message, because it will keep the older Awos from having anything to say. So you share maybe 2 verses and then continuing on and on and on. Do it in a way that everybody has the opportunity to have something to say. Akuko, on the other hand, he was exceptional, and he was also very experienced and very knowledgeable, but he was very young and cocky. So when the Odu Ifa would come out, he would say everything, just go on and on and on and on and on, and tell every aspect of the verse. And then all the older Awos would just be like, well, we don't have anything to say. He said everything. And he would do this all the time, to the point where everyone began to disrespect the older Awos, and they would respect more of what Akuko would say. And when this happened, those older Awos, they began to think, you know what we're going to do? We're going to fix Akuko. We're going to curse him and ensure that misfortune befalls on him. And what ended up happening is they cursed him. And that's why it says rain had fallen on Akuko, the cock, today. So rain, in this sense, is like a metaphor for the curse that had rained down on Akuko. And when it does, Akuko is like, man, what do I do? I'm feeling the effects of this curse. And he goes to the Babalao, and the Babalao says, this is partly your fault. You've done something to create this. So there are times when a curse comes as a result of your own arrogance. Your own negativity has brought a transgression upon you. And as a result of that thing being brought upon you, now you must atone. And Akuko had to atone for what he did. He went and he spoke to those other elder Awos, and he also offered a bow. He also did a particular akoshe, and it's so magnificent when we see this akoshe being done. What ends up happening is we start with the Odu turned upside down, and it looks like Obarameji. And then when you make the incantation, you spin it around, and it turns right side up, turns into Okarameji. And then that process is what transforms and turns the curse on its head. So sometimes we got to turn the curse upside down, and also we need to atone. Sometimes some curses come as a result of needing to atone. Now, I want to talk about the process of what happens when there's an intergenerational issue and we need to atone, but not necessarily atone in the way that we have created a negative problem, but we need to do something in order to heal. And sometimes the aspect of the curse may be a stepping stone for us to be great. This Ifa comes from the Odu Ogbebara. Ogbebaragada Ifa says, one's business ought to be taken care of, and one's trade ought to be handled well. If one stays in the river to drain the water therein, water will splash on one's face, and splash into one's mouth, and splash on one's body. This was the Ifa cast for Oja Oboku, when lamenting her inability to give birth to her own baby. She was advised to offer a bow. She complied. After giving birth to her own baby, she named the baby Eyinle. When Eyinle grew up, she too was lamenting her inability to have a baby. She was advised to offer a bow. She complied. The Awo told her to use dog as ebo materials. After giving birth to her own baby, she named her baby Ijanja. When Ijanja grew up, she never saw her period one day in her life. She was weeping in lamentation of her inability to give birth to a baby. She was advised to offer ebo, and she was told to go meet her mother at the riverbed. She complied. She went to the riverbed. She said, I have brought kola nuts to come meet my mother. Erin Jogola, the elephant, has honor in its inheritance. Offspring of the elephant that marches majestically with honor. Ijanjan, here I come, the daughter of Eyinle, who resides in the riverbed. I have brought kola nuts to come and meet my mother. I have really come in search of my mother. Ijanjan, I have brought kola nuts and bitter kola nuts, and I've also brought alligator pepper to come and meet my mother. I have come in search of my mother. Eyinle, please come quickly and take the ritual materials from your daughter. Erin Jogola, offspring of the elephant that marches majestically with honor. Ijanjan, here I come, daughter of Eyinle, who resides in the river. I have brought you a mature ram to come and meet my mother. I have come in search of my mother. Eyinle, please come quickly and accept these ritual materials from your daughter. Erin Jogola, Omo Erin Di Folayan. Ijandan, here I come, the daughter of Eyinle, who resides in the river. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of children. Several children is what Ifa guarantees. This is such an interesting Ifa. The story begins with Oja Oboku. And this was a wonderful woman. She lived with her husband and her husband's family. But the thing of it is Oja Oboku was not fulfilled. She was not happy in any way. But the other part is her family loved her. Her husband loved her. Her in-laws, they didn't even treat her like she was a wife. They treated her like a sister. They treated her like a family member. And in terms of this, they treated her so well, they even absorbed Oja Oboku into the family. And she felt so bad because she put some things on herself. What I mean by that is she felt incomplete. She felt man, these people love me so much, but I can't even give birth to a child. She went for Ifa consultation to the Babalao mentioned above, and the Babalao then told her that you will have a child. Your child will be great. And what you need to do is you need to offer a bow with one ram. So she procured her ram and she went and she offered her a bow. 6 weeks after she offered the abo, Oja Boku was pregnant. And she gave birth to her baby girl without any incidents. Everything went very well. The whole family was celebrating. She was celebrating. And the whole community celebrated. And as a result of doing this, she decided, what shall I name my daughter? And she remembered, well, what I needed to do, I offered a bow with the ram, and then I used the ram, as the Babalao had advised, to feed Ile, to feed the earth. And she said, what I'll call my baby is Ayin Le, which means the egg laid by Ile. So she gave her daughter that name. When Ayin Le grew up, she too married into a wonderful family. She too was loved very much by her in-laws. They treated her so well, and she was cherished and loved by her husband, but she too could not have a baby. She went to the same Babalao that her mother went to, and that Babalao then said, Eyingle, you will have a baby. The key here is you need to offer a bow. And you need to offer a bow with a dog. And Eyinle took the dog. She offered her a bow. And afterwards, she was told to prepare the dog in a way where it would be cut into strips. And these strips are called Ijanja. And she cut them into these strips and then cut them into bits and cooked them with Arayin Bomoton leaf. And then she was to eat it. She did that. And then, those of you who know Ifa medicine, Arayin Bomoton, that herb is very good for pregnancy. So she consumed it and became pregnant a month later. As she was thinking about what to name her daughter, she said, well, I cut the pieces of the dog, and Eshu came and said, you should name your daughter Ijanja. And she named her daughter Ijanja. As Ijanja grew up and she grew into adulthood, she too married into a family that was loving, that was empowering. She married into a family that loved her very, very, very much. And as she did this, she too had a similar problem. The problem that Ijanja had is that she never had a period. She never had a menstrual cycle in her adult life. She had never seen her cycle. And therefore, she was incapable, to have a child. So, Ijanjan was very embarrassed. She didn't even tell her husband. She kept this terrible secret. And as she was going through this process, Ijanjan was giving herself negative self-talk. She was cursing herself at that point. You ever been in a situation where you feel like, man, I can't get over the hump. I can't become great. And as you get caught up in the minutia of the moment, you too then become a person who gives yourself negative self-talk. She then becomes a person who tells herself, she says at a certain point, she said, you know what? Since I can't have a baby, or since I can't even have a cycle, what is the difference between me and a man? I'm like a man because I can't have a cycle. And she felt like she had this, and this was a terrible affliction. And she felt that since she couldn't get pregnant, she had no worth in the world. So Ijanjan also went to the same Babalawo that her mother and her grandmother went to. And she cast Ifa, and the Babalawo said, you will have children, but you need to go to your mother. And at this time, her mother had passed away. But the unique aspect about her mother, Einle, is that her mother had died, and she left such a beautiful legacy of character. She left such an incredible aspect of great things that she resided in a particular river. When she died, she resided there, and her mother's spirit, the spirit of Einle, lived in this river, and people would go to Einle and pray and have their needs met. And the Babalawo said, you need to go to the place of your mother. You need to go to the river and pray to Einle there. And she was told to bring a ram. She was told to bring 50 kola nuts and 50 bitter kola nuts. She was told to bring palm oil. She was told to bring gin. She was told to bring beans and amala. And Ijanjan went to the river, and she went there and she decided, you know what, since I'm going to visit my mother, who is now an Orisha, I'm going to bring drummers to the river. I'm going to prepare foods and have drinks so I can share them with the people there. And she took all of these folks, the drummers, she took her food, her drinks, her ritual offerings, and she got to the river and she began to sing and dance. This is where the verse says, Ijanjan, I've come to meet my mother. I have brought kola nuts and bitter kola nuts and alligator pepper. I have brought a ram. Please, Ayinle, come and receive this offering, these ritual materials from your daughter. This is what she's saying as she's there, and the drummers are playing the drums. They're playing bata, and she's saying, Ijanjan is singing and she's dancing, and the people there are singing and dancing. And at a certain moment, Einle manifests herself. The way that Einle manifested herself is the people who came to pray and the people who came to dance started getting possessed. The whole area was charged with spiritual energy, and everyone was getting manifested and mounted, and they were saying some powerful things. And at this moment, Ijanjan then begins to give the offerings to her, the spirit of her mother. She does this. And then after she did all this beautiful process, she was on such a high. Ijanjan was dancing and dancing and dancing, and she was dancing through the town. She danced back to her family home. And as soon as she got back to her house, she realized that her cycle had begun. Her cycle had happened. But all that movement and all that prayer and all that involvement, her cycle had come to her. The first cycle she had ever experienced had happened. And when that occurred, when her cycle had finished, she became pregnant. And when Ijanja became pregnant, of course, her family, her husband was so excited. They're so elated. But the next thing you know is she gave birth to several children in quick succession. When we look at this Ifa, I say Ifa transforms generational curses into intergenerational wealth. And when we think of this wealth, oftentimes this wealth is not, okay, I'm going to have $10 million, $1 billion. It might not necessarily be that, because there are things that are more powerful than money. And when we look at this, Ijanja, has a mother who is an Orisha. That is the wealth. This wealth comes in the form of spiritual energy that you can go and propitiate that force on the other side and receive blessings here. She went to her mother and was able to have everything that she wanted and then some. She was just going there asking for one baby and ended up having multiple babies in quick succession. When we think of this, oftentimes the challenge that we experience when we propitiate Ifa and we are able to go through it and make it through to the other side, that journey is, in much mythology, is talked about. That is the hero's journey. That journey is what will make us great. And that is what happened with Ijanja. That is what happened with Eyinle. Eyinle had experienced all these interesting, challenging experiences to the point where those challenges made her great when she died. People decided that she lived in this river and they would go to her because Eyinle had challenges having her own babies. So others now would come to Eyinle because Eyinle had her own challenges that she overcame. So others now go to her to ask for assistance so that they too can borrow some of that Eyinle Ashe so that they too can overcome their challenges. When we say this, the power of intergenerational wealth, aside from money, aside from physical things, is a great legacy. Creating a legacy of character. That is such a powerful and impactful thing that can be done. We see in this story that Ijanjan's mother and her grandmother experienced the same issue, an intergenerational challenge. Have you ever seen situations where folks in your own family, maybe all the men die at 45 of heart disease, high blood pressure? Maybe that's the issue. And then it comes upon you and you decide, you know what, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to do various things to ensure that I break the cycle. And that's the most important thing, is how do we break these negative cycles that can be perceived as curses, but we can definitely say that they are negative cycles. How do we transform the cycle of Black death that has infested our communities? How can we transform the cycle of urban households that are filled only with single mothers? How do we transform that? We have to break the cycle. And what is the best way to do that? We need to go castify, offer ebo, and make the necessary changes to transform our lives. And as we do that, as we transform, as we overcome, as we do all of those great things, we too will be like Ainle. And as we will be that way, imagine this. If we are able to overcome our challenges, if we are able to break these negative cycles, imagine your own children going to you to give homage to you, to assist them in breaking cycles in the future. That's the way Ifa will transform a generational curse into intergenerational wealth. Is when we come together, we offer a bow, we atone, and most of all, we consciously break the cycle. Abora boy. Thank you so much for tapping in with us today. We have so many announcements. So we were doing conversations with Ifa. We had a really good one this past Friday. The topic was receiving one's hand of Ifa, what it means and what is the significance and the benefits of receiving a hand of Ifa. So hopefully you all got something really good out of that. Also, we had our Itarogun. Itarogun Odu was Obeyonu. So Ifa is telling us to really work on being patient. So that patience and being slow to anger, that is the watchword for the next 17 days. So those of you who would like to be involved, you can send your donation to IDIN Kaifa Temple, but you can go to the website there and go to the place where you can make your donation if you would like to participate in Itarogum. Also, this week, we will be having Makings of Men, and we'll do Makings of Men on the 22nd, which will be on a Thursday. So those of you who would like to be involved in that, Makings of Men is basically a group chat where we talk about the spiritual aspects of being a man and developing ourselves as men of good character within the Ifa community. So we've been doing this for at least 2 years, so at least maybe a year and a half. So those of you who are interested, it's free. You can go and tap into the Zoom and you can join us there. So thank you once again for joining us. If you would like to contribute, if you like the things that we're saying here at IDIN Kaifa Temple, please feel free to donate. It always goes to a good cause. It always goes to the furthering growth of our community. So those are the things we've got going on. We will reconvene. We'll meet again for IJUBA next month. So once again, we meet every first and third Sunday of the month, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Ashe. Let us end with prayer. Olodumare, we thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for supporting us and hearing this wonderful Ifa about transforming negative cycles, transforming negative curses into intergenerational wealth. Ifa, help us to see the wealth in our own families, see the wealth in our own lineages. Help us to transform negative situations into greatness, because that is what we were destined to do. Stand with us, protect us throughout the month until we meet again. Ashe, Aboru, Aboy, Aboshishi, Aboto. Thank you all so much. Once again, I'm Ifa Kolade Oluo of IDIN Kaifa Temple. Thank you.